Research laboratories. Researching newer ways to more efficiently give you cancer.
Here is a field of tobacco, a commodity whose sweet-smelling, enjoyable-tasting smoke
Sweet-smelling?
to man's pleasure.
Are we talking about the same tobacco here?
One of the major sources of wealth to the early American colonies, and now the basis of an industry that ranks with wheat and cotton in monetary value.
And in number of slaves
Until
employed.
recent years, the cultivation, processing, and manufacture of tobacco were almost entirely an art. And the artist? The veteran tobacco man.
Pablo Picasso.
Used in the growing of tobacco and the earlier, simpler techniques of processing and manufacturing.
Those were simpler times.
And his father before him had spent their lives learning how to make tobacco produce a better smoke.
A life well spent.
All that a man's five senses could teach him. But as the industry grew, larger crops, larger markets, modern transportation, all the complexities of a rapidly growing industry taxed his ingenuity in solving new problems. This great change in perspective had been brought about by the introduction of the new American blended
Conveyor belt. Oh.
combining varying amounts of flue-cured, Burley, Maryland, and Turkish tobaccos. With this change came a more discriminating smoker, demanding a milder product of greater uniformity.
We want it mild, damn it!
Thus, the tobacco man felt the need of a sixth sense, which would enable him to control quality
the
from
tobacco
cigarette to cigarette,
man.
the sense of science. This was the situation when the American Tobacco Company embarked on its research program. Beginning with a survey of the literature, such as existed at that time,
Which was seemingly nothing but title pages.
Until in 1939,
The screen size
this
shrunk.
building was constructed to accommodate its expanding activities.
Oh, okay.
Today, this building, housing America's finest cigarette laboratories,
And
is staffed
apparently
with
an elementary
50
school.
trained specialists. Here, extensive studies were made of the
Cabbage.
four main
Some cabbage and
types of
lettuce.
cigarette tobacco, each differing in physical and chemical characteristics, and each producing smoke of different compositions. For example, flue-cured, high in carbohydrates, low in nitrogen.
When was the last time you heard someone complaining that their cigarette wasn't low
Burley, by
carb?
contrast, more bases, factors which influence aroma, taste, and palatability, but cause irritation if not balanced. Within these
Wonder
four
why.
types is an enormous number of variations, resulting from differences in variety, soil, cultural practices,
And number of
climatic
slaves
conditions,
employed to
and
pick it.
stock position. To formulate a balanced blend,
We brought in teams of donkeys like the one shown here.
for every crop and each locality. Out of this grew the American tobacco system of pre-purchase analysis. Experienced tobacco buyers.
do they really have to wear a suit for this
in all
job?
tobacco growing areas.
I mean, seriously, how many people do you think see these guys a day?
Tobacco, which they forward to the laboratory. Here the samples are received and recorded.
Like this guy too. Why is he wearing a tie? He works in a pack room, like warehouse, in Tobacco Headquarters, USA. Why do you have to look nice for that job?
Reports are on their way back to buying supervisors by wire, phone, and mail.
Who just kind of mill around a bit.
Armed
As
with
shown
his
here.
confidential information and his own ingrained experience and judgment, goes to auctions like this, better equipped
wearing the
with
same hat.
of the required characteristics. At the laboratory, the job has just begun. For even with scientific selection,
Science!
variations from crop to crop dictate constant inventory and analysis of stock on hand.
Let's be honest, this guy's
For
just
example,
making this stuff up.
Here you see tobacco
He's
being
got like 2 vials of water, he's
analyzed
moving them around to make it
and
look
on a
like
volatile
the
basis.
cigarettes aren't that going to kill you, because science is
The
behind
total
them.
volatile bases are determined by titration.
Titration?
Nicotine in a fractional part of the distillate is precipitated with silicotungstic acid.
Silicotungstic? Dude, you're making this stuff up as you go.
The residue of silicotungstic oxide cooled and weighed. The result is indicative of the total amount of nicotine in the sample. Other criteria of quality,
You
for
make
which
sure there's
tobacco
enough to
samples are
satisfy you, I
analyzed,
guess.
include sugar content, proportion of ash, total and protein nitrogen, and many others. In addition to the selection and blending of tobacco, rigid standards must be set on all materials used
In fact, this woman smokes 6 packs a day.
For instance, is a photoelectric device for measuring the opacity and whiteness of cigarette paper. Here you see a test of the bursting strength of the paper.
He's rolling a dude.
Cigarette paper is a very special paper composed of purified
It's a very special paper for a very special boy.
Chalk. Wrapping materials undergo rigid tests for purity, impermeability, and numerous other characteristics.
Why?
This one, a stiffness test for foil.
Talking about cigarettes here, it's the equivalent of shoving dirt straight into your lungs. Why is
the
this?
control exercised by the laboratories
What's that pulley
extends
for?
to all branches of manufacturing.
You're using stock footage now.
Regulation of humidity and temperature, in addition to contributing to the sanitary conditions in factories like this.
Hi, Polly, do you like my suit?
Tobacco. The nerve center for this moisture control is again
Is in
the
the spinal
laboratory,
column.
which is in constant touch with all factories, conducting moisture tests like this, which are run on samples of tobacco from every stage of manufacture, and also checking the instruments used in all factories for proper calibration. Scientifically supervised
Now that's
manufacture
really
of
a
this
duty.
nature helps produce a finer finished product.
Lucky Strike, it's
And from every
toasted.
production line in every factory.
How is it
Store
toasted?
counters all over the country.
Never heard of anybody putting a cigarette in their
representative samples are
toaster.
sent to the Lucky Strike laboratories. Here, predetermined
Wait.
standards must be met, physical as well as chemical. And
You're looking over the blueprints for a cigarette box?
The laboratory found itself frequently in uncharted waters. Its engineers were called on to design and build testing devices not available from regular instrument makers. This one, a cylinder which tosses the cigarettes back and forth,
Is
determines
completely
tightness
pointless.
and stability, ensuring against loose ends.
Make sure that you can roll your cigarettes around on the floor.
Here, a microfilm projector is adapted for measuring width of cut of tobacco. This instrument was designed to measure resistance to airflow, making sure your cigarette
Is
puffs
streamlined?
freely and easily. And this one, similar in principle as well as appearance, tests the moisture-tight seal of the cellophane jacket.
Again, you're doing all this for a cigarette.
Developed in experimental
You
research.
could just like roll the crap up, put it in a piece of paper, and sell it. It'd be just as good for you.
Because this experimental research never ends. This is a mechanical
Tobacco is a
machine
cruel
which
mistress.
closely reproduces conditions of human specimen. Careful quantitative studies of the composition of smoke collected by this device led to the establishment of standards of quality. And indications are that continuing research will reveal new criteria and suggest even better methods for quality control. Here, for example,
Getting a whiff of this,
are
Bert?
experiments on the isolation
Yeah, that's the
and
stuff.
identification of the ingredients in smoke and tobacco that contribute to aroma. And here you see a Van Slyke apparatus, which is being
No,
used to
I-
investigate
what
the
is that?
changes which occur during the aging of tobacco.
Yep, it's old, alright.
Recognizing the need for basic research on the physiological aspects of smoking with emphasis on irritation, the American Tobacco Company in 1935 established a research grant at the Medical College of Virginia in Richmond.
Really.
Facilities such as this biological laboratory were provided for collaborative investigations. Today, in
So
the
that we can
factories,
confirm-
the auctions, and
It's
on
like
the
just,
farms,
it hurts your
you'll
throat.
find
Shouldn't
the
that tip you off
tobacco
right
man
there?
practicing his art as in the past.
Rest in
But
peace, the
with one
Tobacco
big
Man.
difference. Backing up and guiding his every move is a sixth sense his father never had.
He sees dead
The sense
people.
of science.
The American Tobacco Association would like to remind you to smoke at least 8 packs a day. Tobacco. It's not as bad as they say, we swear.